Hi, this is E.T. North America's first wrestling legend was active long before the WWE, or such ring luminaries as, Dick the Bruiser, Antonio Rocca, Gorgeous George, Bruno Sammartino, or promoters like the McMahons, or even old-time promoters like Jack Curley. Before identifying this wrestler, a few facts. During early American history, wrestling was the primary means of settling disputes. Boxing, although popular in England, did not take hold in the U.S. or Canada until after the American Civil War. American boxing greats such as Tom Molyneux had to, before the Civil War, sail to the British Isles if they expected any fame or money. And it was only with the advent of the penny press that the names of Peter Jackson, or of course John L. Sullivan, were known to America's general public. The reasons for the popularity of wrestling over boxing most likely were the following. The obvious danger in bare-knuckle boxing to a fighter's hands and, of course, to his opponent. This is at a time when medical care, if available at all, was, to put it mildly, primitive. And if a man were to die from a fight, then the victor would likely be hanged. Two wrestling styles were most used through the States until the mid-1800s. This one here is the collar and elbow style, where each man would grip his opponent's collar with his left hand and the opponent's elbow with his right. Then there was the side hold style, where each man stands right leg to left leg with an arm about his opponent's waist, and then each would grab the other's free hand. On occasion, men fought catch as catch can. In other words, rough and tumble, no holds barred. The man who earned the first national fame as a wrestler had his first engagement wrestling at the age of 16. The date was roughly 1728. It's at a boarding school in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Now, this man was large, very large for the time, 6 feet 2 inches. We don't know about the weight, but it was probably 200 pounds plus. He had very broad shoulders, very broad hips. He had large forearms and hands. In fact, earlier, remember he's only 16, he pulled a very famous Indian strongman to his knees during a grip strength contest. And he was known locally for being unequaled in sprints, high jump, and broad jump. But he had no experience in wrestling. When he had that first ring encounter, and it was with two boys, very large, they were the sons of the dormitory mother. Here's what happened. The first boy grabbed him about the waist and threw our man to the ground, bruising his shoulder. Then he gets to his feet, our man, and the other brother did the same thing. For the next 10 days, our man mastered the basics of wrestling and easily beat those two boys. But then came the real test, when the acknowledged best tosser, another name for wrestling, in Virginia arrived. He sized up our man, challenged him, and the story remains legend in American history. Our man and the champion squared off with the collar and elbow hold, and what we know about this bout comes from the, former champion, and I'm quoting him. After a short, fierce struggle, I felt myself grasped and hurled upon the ground with a jar that shook the marrow in my bones. After that victory, our man resumed his studies. He never again competed in wrestling, with perhaps this one single exception. It happened many years later during the American Revolution. The place was Boston, where this former wrestling legend was in command. The soldiers fighting on the Patriot side were untrained and lacked any sense of discipline. When the commander approached two soldiers who were fighting, screaming, He grabbed each by the collar, raised each up over his head, and threw them into separate heaps. Now that's a feat of strength that also became a legend in U.S. history. The subject of this story went on to lead his army to victory, with some help from France. He went on to preside over the drafting of the U.S. Constitution. He became the first United States president. His name, if you have not guessed by now, George Washington. And that, boys and girls, is the story. Did you like it? Hit the thumb up button. Subscribe to this channel and share these videos on social media. You know the drill. Thank you.